He holds the NFL record for most catches in a game. Some called him Baby T.O. Others credit him with sparking a new era of athlete empowerment, and now he's repositioning his media platform. Talking business and sports with Brandon Marshall coming up at the Nasdaq. Hello everyone, this is Jabari Young, Forbes senior writer here at the Nasdaq. And I just told you I'm ready to talk to, right? Brandon Marshall, former NFL wide receiver, played 13 seasons with the Denver Broncos, Miami Dolphins, Chicago Bears, Jets, Giants.
Yeah.
You never wanted to play for my Cowboys, man?
The Cowboys, I couldn't do it.
You couldn't do it?
I couldn't do it.
Violation.
I couldn't do it.
It's
I
all
couldn't
good.
do it.
It's all good.
I was really comfortable in Chicago. I thought I was going to retire a Chicago Bear. And I started to do full-time broadcasting.
Yeah.
First athlete to do full-time broadcasting. They asked me to stop, and I had to stand on business. And so I said, I'll get closer to the biggest media market, and that's how I got to the Jets. So that was very strategic. And now instead of flying in on my off days on Tuesdays into the city, I actually drove a Sprinter from Brooklyn to 57th and 12th, and I was on inside the NFL for a long time. So.
But no Dallas, no Dallas.
No Dallas. Everything for me was, like, I love football.
Yeah.
You know, and you can see how I played it, but I also understood that it was a platform and, you know, that transition was going to be real. So I was very strategic on what I wanted to do. And playing in New York, the Jets and the Giants, true honor. But every day I was able to walk into these major networks and sit down with the heads of whether it was HBOs, the Showtimes, or the CBSs that built that. And Michael Strahan was that guy, you know, that laid a blueprint and you know, a pathway there. And when I realized, I know we're just jumping in right now.
Well, welcome to the Nasdaq. Yeah, that's another one. Welcome to the Nasdaq. Is this your first time at the Nasdaq?
It is.
It is.
It is.
What do you think so far?
It's beautiful. When I walked in, I looked at it, I was like, this is how I want my set to be. That's how I think. I like the circle. I love the desk, minimalistic.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good.
So my brain, the creative brain, just started going crazy. Like, I'm looking at the cameras. How do we do this automated? Because it's about efficiency. The creative economy's changing.
We can just come here and do the show.
There we go. All right. Well, we gotta. We can change the digital board.
Well, yeah, we are in the stock market, man. So if you had to give me a stock, something that maybe has worked good for you, something maybe you're looking to buy, right? What would you say it is?
You know, to be honest, right, as a football player, you know, you can't take on a lot of risk because our earnings are in just a few years. Mm-hmm. So the way we invest is totally different than maybe a gentleman, a lady or a man in corporate America that have 30 years, 40 years of earning potential, right? So, you know, my portfolio is built to where, you know, I'm dumping my money in there and I'm in there for 10 years, right? So what I would say is wherever Trump's at right now is where you should be. Elon Musk, you know, Elon Musk is doing some interesting things. So, you know, that's something to pay attention to.
Well, his media company, Trump's, is right here on the Nasdaq. It's traded right here. Right?
You understand?
I mean,
you understand?
You know, so last I looked, it wasn't doing that bad either. You know?
So right now, though, I'm investing a lot into the creator economy. Right. So I'm more, you know, my hat now. I have a nest egg set aside. And obviously a lot of us was hit over the last couple of years. You know, we're talking about portfolios down 20, 30, 40, 50%. So we're still recovering from that. Right now I have my entrepreneur hat on, you know, so I'm, you know, it's volatile. It's very risky right now. But when you look at the creator economy over the next 5-7 years, it's going to grow from $250 billion TAM to, you know, 450. So, you know, there's a lot of opportunities there, and the people that are able to collaborate and partner and then also solve some of these problems are going to be the ones that are going to be at the forefront of this new media and this watershed moment that we're having in this media era.
Well, let's get right into that, man, right? Because, you know, as we stand, Black History Month, right, you have an announcement that, you know, you're partnering with Revolt, right, the media platform, to bring I Am Athlete, a media company that you founded, CEO, to Revolt, to create Revolt Sports. Take me inside of this partnership, man, distribution deal, joint venture. What is it? Explain it to me. Yeah,
it's a partnership, and it's needed. And I don't know if Revolt needs us. There's so many athletes out there, but we need Revolt. Good partnerships take time. Almost 3 years ago, there was a few of Revolt's executives that flew down to South Florida and spent some time with us. And we walked them through our vision. They walked us through their vision. and they were talking about this for years, what they wanted to do in sports. And so it's taken a few years to get right, and it's all about timing. So, right now, Revolt Sports is launched, and we're crawling, and we're going to walk, and then we're going to run.
Yeah. And
so it's starting off as a weekly show, digitally and also linear, from a linear standpoint as well. But, come, spring, summer, there's going to be some extensions and some, new elements to it. There's a lot of things that we can do here. So we got to get the main thing right first. And it starts with myself and Kayla Nicole Brown, who I'm super excited to work with. I think she is entertainment. Mm-hmm. She is like talent. She sings, she dances. She has her broadcasting degree.
And is your co-host?
Her journalism degree, yes. Yeah. Went to Pepperdine, right? She's an entrepreneur. She knows sports. She's a fan. Like, if you watch her and you follow her, every night she's just posting stories of her reactions to watching the NBA or the NFL. Yeah. So it starts with us, but the vision for us is to grow this thing out from a daily standpoint, weekly standpoint, show up in an event space, and just do so many other cool things with other athletes and also artists. Because when you think about Revolt, it's the cultures. They sit in the center of sport and culture, right? And music, and then that is culture. So excited about it.
Yeah. When you look at because again, you were at the forefront of the whole athlete movement when I Am Athlete, when you created that back in 2020. But when you look at the landscape now, right, what's going to be different about this show as opposed to, you have so many of y'all popping up, right? Yeah. Athletes are starting podcast shows. What's going to be different about this show that a viewer cannot see somewhere else? Because you're fighting for eyeballs, you're fighting for attention.
I never used the language podcast, even back in the day. I said, no, I'm building a show. Building a podcast, it's totally different than building out a show. You're talking about segments, and then the way you format it, you produce it, the way you edit it, the way you monetize it. So there's some cool things that we're taking from the podcast space, and this is something that I didn't anticipate in this partnership, but I'm learning a lot from Revolt, from when you look at linear and how you format shows and produce shows. We're talking about simple things. Right, I'm talking about like outs and ins, So when you ask me what's going to be different, we talk about this all the time. I think there's a lot of athletes out there that are doing some amazing things, and the reason why we have some amazing opportunities is because we're finally taking these conversations from the locker room, and we're putting cameras around it, mics on it. This is who we are. Right, even my dreads. The reason why I have dreads is because there was a network that said you're going to be the next Michael Strahan, but then they asked my agent, will he cut his hair? And that's the reason why I kept my hair, right? So athletes now can be their true, raw, authentic selves. And so now they're, you're looking at podcasts, but how do you take a podcast and turn it into a platform? So when you think about what we're going to do with Revolt, like, it's this. Like, this is the dream.
Yeah.
This is the dream, right? And so the conversations will be raw, it would be authentic, but also there's a real opportunity right now to get back into the game. Like, do you watch sports?
I do, yeah.
What do you love? Football, basketball?
Football.
Basketball is number one for you?
Well, no, we get football depending on what Sunday it is or Saturday.
Okay, so right now in this space, there's a lot of banter. There's a lot of yelling.
Yeah.
Right? That's what's working right now. And
do you think that is effective, though? Because I'm a journalist at the end of the day. I grew up watching different type of sports shows, so I look at what athletes are doing, and I'm like, okay, I see what it is, but then I get to that banter, the yelling, and I don't understand what's going on. Is that effective?
It is, because, you got to think about it. Like, people love these bold predictions or statements. So you have that. Jordan and LeBron, who's the GOAT? Like, we're going to continue to have those conversations, and you're going to feel that energy and that passion. You can see it in my face right now. That's how it is in the locker room. That's how it is in a barbershop. But now it's time for us to get back to the game and talk X's and O's. Listen, the reason why Buffalo lost is because you have Coach Steve Spagnuolo. Coach Steve Spagnuolo took this defense from 2018 that was the worst defense in the league to now they're top 10. And so when we talk about this, we have this debate around Patrick Mahomes. Why isn't he throwing for as many yards as he used to? Is because he don't have to. He has a complete team for the very first time. So now the conversation we need to look at is Patrick Mahomes better than Tom Brady? Is Coach Andy Reid, is he going to end his career as the most prolific and the best head coach ever over Lombardi and also Bill Belichick, right? But we got to use the stats. We got to use the game. And there's no one better than peeling back those layers than the guys that sat in those seats. We're talking about guys and ladies that sat in the locker room or in those seats for 10, 15, 20 years. And so that's why I'm excited about what I've been doing. And I've been going fast, but I haven't reached the destination. And we probably never reach the destination, but when you partner with someone, you go further. Yeah. Right? And so it starts with me, but there's going to be other athletes that Revolts bring in. There are going to be other extension, other shows. And so I want to hear from the athlete, me as a fan, right? And I still want to have I want to hear your opinion too. I want you to cover the game. We need you to cover the game. And so that's where like the Kayla Nicole Browns come in and the Marquette Smiths comes in. Like they are traditional journalists, but they're also athlete friendly. Right. So. Yeah.
What's been the biggest positive surprise, man, post NFL? Because you're a CEO now, you're in the business world, and the platform obviously was great for you then, but what's been the biggest positive surprise post-career now that you're done playing football?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool having success off of your mind, right? Like, since I was 6 years old, I had this dream of becoming an athlete or a football player, right? And I was able to accomplish that. And so the game is 80% mental, but it's so, like, the thing that we highlight and we celebrate is our, that gladiator mindset and atmosphere. So it's a lot of physical, running 6'5", 230, running down the sideline, like I was a smaller athlete, but maybe a Olympic sprinter, and catching the ball over my shoulder through the lights and 70,000 people screaming. That's pretty cool. I would never experience that again. But being able to sit back and use my mind to create something, that's been the biggest thing. It's like I have this idea, right? It started with a case study at Harvard in 2014, and then it comes to life. And then you're working it for 10 years. Boom, pandemic hits. This thing turns into a cultural, social phenomenon, right? Like that same energy and passion and fire to become, a really good football player, you take that and you put it into business. Like, how we opened the show, you're talking to me about the creative side. That's not what excites me. Like, I can do that all day. There's an art and science of storytelling. What excites me is that I know the business. I can tell you where the market's at. I can tell you where it's at today and where it's going to be in 2027, or where we think it's going to be. I'm reading Goldman Sachs reports. I'm reading Forbes. I'm keeping up with it. And I'm an athlete. I went to school to play ball. I'm not sure about your journey, but it's different. I think what you do is cooler.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Right? So I think that's the thing that I'm most proud of and that excites me is that you have those small wins along the way, and it's like, oh, I can do this. Yeah. I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah. With positives come negatives.
Yep.
What's been the biggest negative surprise post-NFL?
Woo. I've called some of my head coaches, Coach Mark Trustman, Coach Mike Shanahan. I said, I'm sorry. Like, I was such an athlete, and I didn't understand when you have an organization and you have, 53 guys on the roster, and then you have another 100 people in a, from a operation standpoint. Then you have sales, you have all these things that you have to manage, you have all these moving parts. Sometimes we get caught up in ourselves and we're selfish, right? And now, sitting back and building an organization, I go from a player to a coach or a general manager or owner, because you have to wear all three hats when you're in the startup phase. Now I'm the coach, right? And there's moments in my career where it was like, I wanted to wear red tights when I played for the Giants, right? But the rule was it's blue. Why? Because this is the brand. And we have a vision for where we want to take the brand. And you have guys like myself and Odell, and we're wearing red tights. And the coach is like, Coach McAdoo, like, what are you doing? Coach, what are you doing? Right? It's breaking down the integrity of the team. So now I'm getting into people, right? Like, how do you manage? How do you, like, what does your meeting cycle look like? And so
well, I'm glad you said that. What's the biggest thing you learned about managing people?
It's that right there. It's like leadership is hard. Making tough decisions are hard, right? And you have to be able to do that if you talk about being a CEO and really operating a business. So there's things in the past where I brought that athlete mindset more from a player standpoint. You know, it's so emotional. You know, sports is so emotional. That's why like football is one of the greatest games out there, because our fan base is like so emotional. We're so invested, and you have to separate the emotion and the money. Yeah. What is best for the business, right? So learning that in real time, because what did I say earlier? I went to school for what? Football, right? So when I sit down with people like yourselves, or the Mark Shapiros of the world, and I'm asking those questions like, give me one thing about negotiation. Give me one thing about running a meeting, right? So that's been the toughest thing for me, is being able to pull myself out of the product, pull myself out of the creative, and do what's best for the business, right? And sometimes, right, like leadership and management, you have to grow. And it's cool because I work with athletes, so it makes it interesting. I was just talking to Josh Bellamy, who's on our show Revolt, and we're working through something. And I said, Josh, it's like football, Josh. This is a true story. I said, Josh, I got to get Kayla done first because she's the star. I said, she's the star. I said, give me a week and then I'll come in and I'll fix this problem. But he laughs at me because he understands, like, this is no different than we played for the Chicago Bears, and Coach Trustman, right, was negotiating Jay Cutler's contract. Then he came to me, then he went to you, right? And he got it, he understood it. So it's been a process, but I love working with athletes because we're used to being in high performance cultures and high performance environments. And so building out a team and a culture of talent and people behind the camera that think the same and want the same thing, like, we're here to win a championship. So, it's really a journey. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Take me back to, man, that young Brandon Marshall. You go from Pittsburgh and you move to Florida when you were in the 4th grade. But before you discovered football at age 6, you knew you wanted to be a football player, right? What was your favorite cartoon when you were sitting there watching TV on a Saturday? Like, what did you want to be before football?
I always wanted to play football.
Always? There was nothing else?
I mean, my favorite cartoon, you had Dennis the Menace, you had the Jetsons, there's so many things out, like, some cool cartoons out there.
But none of that overtook football?
No, like, when I was born, they placed a football in my crib. I come from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Steelers, but if you go down to like the community and the neighborhoods, it's that same energy that fan base has. Like, but it's the same when you see a 6-year-old, 7-year-old out there running around with a football in their hands. And so I come from an environment where football was king. And unfortunately, it's a universal story for a lot of us, right? Where football becomes our identity, but it's not who we are, right? And so you have to work through that. So that's why I say that. It's like, I'm proud of it, but that's the work that you have to do as an athlete when you mature and you grow, right? A lot of us struggle because basketball, football, it's who I am. This is what I do. No. It's just a platform, right? So when the game is taken away from you, who are you? What are you doing? So when you see that transition, a lot of us struggle. We talk about divorce. We talk about, finances. You talk about marriage. So divorce, you talk about, what do you do next from a business standpoint or purpose standpoint? You're 25, 30 years old, and now you're retired. And that's why I spent that time in the peak of my career at Harvard studying transition. That's how we got to content and commerce, right? So, no, 6 years old, man, it was only football.
Only football.
It was only football. And actually, when I was at McLean, so I spent 3 months in an outpatient program at McLean. That's why I'm so passionate about mental health. Some people out there that may know my story, I said, I reached all my goals. I'm 26, and I reached all my goals. I hit everything. I can travel the world. I just signed the biggest deal at the wide receiver position in the history of the NFL. I'm breaking records, right? Like I'm here. And I said, damn, I have to start dreaming again. Yeah. And I got to dream bigger. And that's when we got to the case study and all those other things. I'm like, all right, what do I want to do? Like even now, it's like, okay, I'm here. Like I want to be another EGOT recipient. Think about that. Right now we're talking about sports, but what about an Emmy? What about a Grammy? What Oscar, a Tony, right? So, before I hit 30, I had to dream again. And so, this platform it's not about sports for me. It's about, having a platform to tell our stories. And for me, it's mental health. Yeah. So when I'm sitting down with Deion Sanders, I get that moment where I'm like, Deion, what's your lowest moment? And he's never told this story before. And because he feels safe with me, he says, Brandon, man, I was winning Super Bowls and I was playing baseball and I was in a hotel in Cleveland and I had a shotgun on the bed and I was going to take my life. Darrelle Revis, Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl champion, comes on our platform, and I was not prepared for this moment. You have everything. You're one of the best ever to do it. And he says, I'm dealing with PTSD. Right? So, what you'll find on our show and on our platform is, yes, you come in, we talk about sports, but then there's a moment where I'm like, are you okay? How are you doing? Yeah. And there's other athletes out there that are passionate about other things. Like LeBron coined that thing, we're more than athletes, right? And so it's cool seeing an athlete show up in fashion and style or in food or in business and politics. Like we have athletes out there that really care about what's going on in DC. And there's some that don't, right? And so there's other athletes that are leveraging their platforms to fulfill their purpose. Yeah. And that's what this is about for me.
Yeah. Well, before I wrap up, I want to kind of dive back into when you were at the peak of your career as an athlete, right? I mean, because you go to Central Florida, right, get drafted by the Broncos in the 4th round, and again, referred to as Baby T.O. Yeah. And then in December 13th, 2009, you had that breakout moment, where you have 21 receptions, 200 yards in that game against the Colts. 6-time Pro Bowler, right, over 12,000 receiving yards. If you had to describe your career in one word, what word would that be and why? Just one word.
Jeez. One word?
One word.
My career. Whew, that's tough, man. Yeah. Relentless.
Relentless. Why relentless?
I never watched a game that I was proud of. And this is like the like when you're built in something, you got to be a little delusional, and this is like why some of us, like, they want to do something great, we struggle because we always feel like there's more and it's better. But playing for the Jets in 2015, I come in at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm the only one in the facility. I'm watching film. I just had 100-something yards and 1 touchdown, and we won the game. And I was watching it, and I was like, there was another yard right there. I should have, and then I start crying because I'm like, this is a game or a season that most receivers dream of, and I'm not satisfied. I'm not happy. And I realized, and I wipe my tears, and then I start embracing myself because I'm like, that's what makes me great, right? So my career, I feel like, because I wanted more, I wanted to be better, I wanted to win the Super Bowl, I wanted to be the best receiver ever, it helped me reach my full potential, right? And so that's why I say relentless.
Yeah. Well, take that relentlessness, right? Do you apply that to business? And if so, how do you do that? Like, how do you take that relentlessness and put it into a CEO? Because you got to be relentless as a CEO, but you got to make sure that it's the right relentlessness.
Yeah, and that's why, maybe, I don't know if I articulate myself well enough when you ask me about, like, some of my challenges thus far in business, it's that, right? Like what I realized is we are, athletes are trained differently. There's no other place outside the military where you walk in every single day and the standard is the standard. Your best is needed every single day. And if you don't give it, you know, you could be cut and another man or woman is going to take your spot, right? So I had to learn how to work with good or average, right? Corporate America, if I'm being honest, corporate America, not everybody walking in wants to be great or win a championship. So when I walk into the Jets or the Giants facility every single day, that head coach, that owner, that general manager, they want a championship. Eli Manning wants a championship. Odell Beckham Jr. wants a championship, and he wants 1,500 yards. So I'm around this culture of high performers, and I didn't understand that in transition. And that was the toughest part about my transition, right? Because we talk about that a lot, you know, athletes transitioning. And my struggle wasn't about purpose or what I was going to do next. I already had it built. I was already doing it. It was actually just learning my management style, my leadership style, right? So how do I, you know, someone coming in that's making $50,000, $60,000 and they're just like, it's just a check for me. How do I lead that person? How do I connect with that person? So how it transfers for me is, you know, and Netflix is a lot like this. If you read the Netflix memo and how they built their culture, they talk about your best is needed. You're talking about performance. And if you don't do your job, we'll just cut you have a severance check, right? Like after 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And so what I start doing is I'm actually writing a book on this about disruption, but it's before you can disrupt the space, you have to disrupt yourself. So it's a lot of work that you have to do as a leader and as a CEO. You have to be on point, right? From a health standpoint, from a wellness standpoint. And so this process that I've been going through over the last 2 years is who am I surrounding myself with? That's the most important thing, right? My COO, are we aligned? Do we have the same mindset? Do we want to win a championship? And then it trickles down. So the way, you know, how I understand myself now is helping me hire like-minded people. And it's that onboarding process. Those first 4 to 6 months are crucial. It's important, right? We set the standard, you know, not just roles and responsibilities, but it's also here's our culture, here are the expectations. Before, when I first started, I didn't understand myself, right? Like meaning from in a business world and how to communicate that to my team. And now we have processes in place because the way I look at it, and you know, these are just things that's been out there. I actually look at, you know, people, process, then product. But you know, I think as a leader, the first thing you have to look at is you have to look at money, right? Like I got to keep the company funded. So that's my number one thing. I'm thinking about money. And so we can talk about this all day.
No, well, we can, man. We can. But listen, you're a CEO, and I'm glad you were mentioning again people. Brand image is important, right? And so when you think about the brand, I had a chance, I'm calling around people, my colleagues up in Chicago, all around sports editors. But when you talk about that brand, what would you say your brand is now? Because you had a very public falling out with a couple of your former colleagues. And it led to this ugly narrative that Brandon Marshall may be selfish, he's not a good leader. How do you repair that image that may be out there? And has that even impacted you?
So what I would say is that's a part of it. One, I brought in some of my buddies and guys in the pandemic. I had this vision, right, that I've been trying to bring to life. And we didn't put the business in the best place before we took off. And it turned into this cultural social phenomenon. And, you know, they did a great job of going out there and telling their story. I want to just go out there and focus on, you know, winning, right? It is what it is. But this narrative that may be out there, what you're saying is, I'm okay with that. Meaning, so let me be clear here because I want to make sure that this doesn't be clipped the wrong way. I am so proud of them because that was the vision. Was for us to start with this one thing and turn that into a NASCAR deal, to turn that into another show and another show and another show. And I just feel that we weren't ready for the moment, right? We weren't ready for the moment, meaning that when I'm talking about, we all have to understand the vision before we go, and we have to stay close and tight because there's going to be so many outside factors that can pull us apart, maybe even internally, right? So we weren't ready. We've seen this a lot with people in this new media space building out platforms and bringing people out. We're trying to figure it out. But for them to go, to take this format and this template and have so much success and consistency, it's a salute to them, right? Fanatics still, they're doing a great job. So that's what I want to say first. Now, on the other side, from a business perspective, when it's all said and done, I want to be back here in a couple years and you never ask me about football. You talk to me about business. That's it. I want to walk through Times Square and people be like, oh, I love the company that you've built. And to do that, now I understand myself. Like, I'm a little bit of Pete Carroll. I'm a little bit of Bill Belichick, where I have to make tough decisions. And, you know, the way you do that is extremely important. So whatever narrative is out there, it doesn't matter to me. You know why? Because I'm trained as a football player. Every day when I was here playing in the city, there was times where I dropped the ball. There's times when I caught the touchdown, and you got to deal with that, right? Like, you got to read the clippings. And now social media, people out there in social media, you put out a post, you can be just an influencer with 5,000 followers, 10,000 followers, and someone say they don't like this, they don't like that. What do? How do you respond to that? Because that can crush you. You got to keep going. You have to look yourself in the mirror and know that you are doing the right thing with integrity, with class, knowing that you're not perfect. You want to be better. And you just got to get up every day and continue to do it. And that's a high performance culture, right? As an athlete, you walk in and it's like, how do I get better? How do I get better? And it's not just, you know, catching the ball, it's in all areas. So, you know, what I love about where I'm at now along my entrepreneur journey, like I said, before you can disrupt the space, you have to disrupt yourself.
Did you disrupt yourself?
It's 100%, but it's also in process. Look at Steve Jobs. Right. Look at Steve Jobs, right? Like, and I can name so many other leaders and founders and CEOs. Mark Zuckerberg, that's started off, and you know they just kept going, and they developed, and they've done some amazing things. And so this is all about leadership. You, as a leader, as a CEO, it's less about at the startup phase. Different phases is different, but you spend more time managing people. You spend more time solving problems than you are working on a product, right? And so you got to really look yourself in the mirror, and you have to, you know, evolve every single day, and you have to study other leaders. And so for me, the best leaders are the coaches, right? So, you know, that's why I talked about Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll, right? Because in sports, you walk into a locker room and you have 53 guys. This guy wants a contract. This guy wants to be traded. He doesn't like it here. This person is having challenges at home with his family. This person, you know, is losing his money. And so as a leader, you have to navigate through all of that. You walk into your facility, you walk into your company, you walk into your office, and you got to know where everybody's at. You got to meet people where they're at. So, you know, that's been the coolest part and the most challenging part about this journey is that the product is one thing. But it's people first, and then it's processes, then it's the product. Because if you can have the product down, but if you don't have your people down, then that's going to be a slippery slope.
Absolutely, man.
That was good. You asked a tough question.
Hey, man, listen, that's what we're here for.
That's really good.
Business,
that's really
man.
good.
Rapid reaction stuff, man. Get you out of here because you're a CEO, Brandon. You're busy, and I'm sure you want to scroll around town in your Sprinter in New York and do all of that fun stuff, man. But keep it on NFL because, listen, Super Bowl's coming right up. So give me your pick right fast, man. Eagles, Chiefs, why?
So I'll be quick here. I want to see a three-peat. You have the Kansas City Chiefs out there, Patrick Mahomes. I would love to be sitting on the couch with my sons watching this and say we saw it. We were a part of that. But the Philadelphia Eagles are the better team.
Yeah.
Right?
Tough.
They have #1 defense. They have 2 #1 wide receivers, and Saquon Barkley is possessed right now in a good way. And so the Eagles, it's their game to lose. But the cool thing about sports is there's like some magic that people have, like the Mahomes. You got to play your best ball.
That's right.
So don't turn the ball over. No self-inflicted penalties. You know, because Patrick Mahomes is not going to give you the game.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Yeah.
Listen, you've made a lot of money in your career, right? And so I think I know how you made your first million, right, in the NFL. But how did you spend it? What was your worst investment? What did you learn?
I don't know if I had any worse investments. I actually wish I enjoyed myself a little more, right? You know, even now what we're talking about, what we're doing, it's all about the journey. There's no destination, and a lot of times we get caught up in that. So I wish I actually bought a Lamborghini.
Oh, you don't
I
own
wish I
one.
bought. No, I waited till I was like towards the end of my career, and I bought a used Rolls Royce, right? So it was like 50% of the.
You act like it's a taxi. That's not bad.
Yeah, but when you're making $10 million a year, right? Like, I was very smart. Like, I got 6 Rolex watches, and what I would do is when I made a Pro Bowl, that's when I used the Pro Bowl money to buy a watch. Right. Like, this watch is my first watch. This is a, you know, Daytona. I bought it at $13,500, and now it's worth $27,000, right?
Can
so
I
it's
have
an
it?
asset. No, you cannot have it. You cannot have it. So I actually wish I would have did a little bit more to enjoy myself, right? Worked hard. But like my investments, which some people would say would be dumb or a bad investment, was investing in my businesses.
Yeah.
I invested $15 million of my own money into I Am Athlete and House of Athlete to get it to this point. And we talked about the, you know, that period that athletes can earn, and you want to be very conservative. And I was that for 13 years, and then I felt this thing, and I said, I got to go. And I started investing. And that's what led to some of those things that you talked about earlier when I talk about the business, right? It's like, you know, I invested, you know, and that's important. So I'll be back here. When we exit, will you tell our story?
Oh, of course, man. Most definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely, man.
You sure?
I'm positive. You got my word
right.
on that. You got,
All right.
if you give me the watch, that is. That's what I'm doing. I'll tell the story, you give me the watch.
How about this? This is what we'll do, right? If you
it's
do a
on
great
camera.
job, if you do a great job covering Revolt and what we're going to do in sports over the next couple of years, and when we hit a goal, I'm gonna come back here, right? When we're like, yo, company's worth $1 billion, and I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna give you a watch.
Oh, I appreciate that, man.
Right. But you got to cover us, though. You have to cover us.
But that's a conflict of interest, so I couldn't say yes on camera.
And
but
that's the opportunity.
Talk to me off camera.
That's the opportunity that we have in new media, right there, right there.
Hey, man, listen, I get you out here on this. Good to Great, right? Jim Collins, his best business book for me. Good to Great. What's the difference between a good wide receiver and a great one?
Oh, there you go. Did you read How the Mighty Fall Built to Last?
I did not.
That was my first business book that I read.
Have you read Spencer Johnson, Peaks and Valleys?
I have not.
Yeah, you got to get that.
I'll read that one. That was my first book. Good to Great. The difference between Good to Great is in the details. It's consistency. It's not big. It's, are you going to show up every single day and stay in process and do the things that you're supposed to do? So, you know, I know you wanted a different answer, but it's just consistency, you know? You have to sacrifice. Yeah,
absolutely. Revolt Sports, man, congratulations on a new show, Brandon Marshall. I really appreciate it, man, and I hope to have you back here, right? And we talk more bigger business, and we won't really talk sports. By that time, nobody will remember.
And I keep my watch.
No, I didn't say that.
No,
man.
you can't.
We didn't even say that.
Can't. If you want to watch, come to Revolt.
Oh, there you go, man.
Because we can give you a watch.
Sitting over there right now. I mean, I got
we can give you a watch.
Brandon Marshall here at the Nasdaq, man. Definitely appreciate the time. Jabari Young, thank you for watching.